Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how fantastic, I don't know, what are we talking about today?
54-inch tires are.
Oh, fantastic 54-inch tires are in Toyotas. Then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and joining me for episode 346 is Mr. Jimmy Baja Claude Jet. No, that's the wrong one. Mr. Jimmy, all they go up to is 40s. We need something like in the 50s.
The Mickey Thompsons?
The Mickey Thompson.
Baja Bosses?
No, those don't go up. I think it is the Baja Claws.
Those ones?
I think it is that. Those are the ones that I think go up to 54s.
Oh.
Anyways,
no.
Welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Whatever. Thanks. Good to be here.
Nice.
I don't remember what those monsters were. I saw them at SEMA a few years ago.
Yeah, those are the Sticky Mickeys.
Yeah, those ones are those are what you could have said. Yeah. I am good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. How was that one chip challenge?
Oh man, it was fun. It was hard.
I don't believe you.
It was tough.
I don't believe you.
I survived. I'm still here.
Oh man.
The next day, though.
Yeah. You're down for the count the next day? Just couldn't sit down anywhere?
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't trust a fart.
Did you need a squatty potty? Jesus. Yeah, man. Things have been going well.
Good. How was SEMA?
It was enlightening.
I bet.
I got to check out some really cool stuff. I kidnapped a Ford executive and told them that I need my Bronco.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
And they called security on me and I had to let him go.
Okay. I don't think Ford's there this year, are they?
Nope, they're not.
Toyota's
there. Yep. Getting into the overlanding scene with the trail hunter.
Yeah, we'll hear more about that maybe on Thursday.
All right. I have some goodies to tell. But yeah, SEMA was good. I was there Thursday, Friday, and then I stuck around Saturday to do some sightseeing and came back Saturday night. So,
good fun.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on Thursday. How that
Did you
all
go
went.
to Twin Peaks?
No, the secretary wouldn't let me.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, I know. I was bummed.
You know, on Thursday's episode, we talked about how you went to the gun range.
Mm-hmm.
There is a fantastic gun range in Nevada, in Vegas area, where I got to shoot all kinds of...
minigun?
I got to shoot a minigun.
I
got to shoot Uzi.
Uh-huh.
I shot some World War II machine gun from like Russia where you load the thing in on the side.
Oh, yeah.
And you just freaking and they were fun. They make you do a few small bursts.
To see if you can handle it.
Yeah, to see how you handle it. And then if you're doing okay, they just say, yeah,
go for it.
And the Uzi, since the Uzi shoots 9 mils, they let you do two
full clip
or
magazines.
You. Yep.
Sorry, everybody.
2 full magazines. Yeah. I was going to call it the wrong thing too. So, but yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Too bad you missed that.
Yeah. I didn't get to go check out the shooting range. That would be fun. Yeah. You should have told me about that before I went.
And the same bachelor party that I was on when I went to the shooting range, we went to the largest whiskey collection on the West Coast, which is at the University of Los Angeles. University of Las Vegas.
Okay.
Or right next to it. I don't know if it's actually connected, but
right near it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was fun too.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah.
This is an off-road podcast after all.
Off-roading podcast. Let's see. What do we got on the docket for today?
Well, we have a giveaway going on.
We do.
We have the 3-drawer kit from Gear Wrench. Comes with all the fancy tools, pretty much anything you need to do a basic repair.
Basic repair, yeah.
We'll go with that. No specialty tools for the most part, but it has all kinds of sockets and wrenches and Allen heads or hex heads, excuse me.
Whoa, buddy.
Hey, they own the rights to Allen. That one's okay.
Okay.
But Puerto Rican socket sets they don't own, but I do believe it has one of those in there at least.
Sure. Yep.
It's got all kinds of things. They normally retail for like $500 to $600, but they're on sale now on Amazon for half that.
At $260, $270, right around there.
And we're giving one of them away as well. So we're giving away something that's like around $260, $70 for you guys. And all you got to do to get in for that is go over to irate 4x4, sign up if you're not already. It's free. But then scroll over to the Snail Trail 4x4 forum. Forum, whatever. And then go and click on that $10 a month Snail Squad setup, and you will get entered.
Nice.
Yeah. What else we got going?
I think that's about it from housekeeping stuff. We don't have gift boxes. We're doing the FNGs, the giveaway winner announcement, and the birthdays on Thursday this week.
Yep.
I don't think there's much else for housekeeping.
Episode 350.
Oh, a little birdie whispered in my ear just now. We have episode 350 coming up.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so that's good. There is a questionnaire here in the show notes. Just scroll down from the episode on your mobile device that you're listening on. And it's a link that says Google Form. So click on that and then input a question.
Yeah.
So
Or five.
I've only done 4.
I'm up to like 20.
You're up to 20? That's like all the questions we have.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
We're up to 22.
Okay.
How many? Wait, what'd you say?
4.
24.
I'm 24 now. Nice. So yeah, we have questions coming up. And so we're for 350, this is 346. So in 4 episodes here, 2 weeks, we're going to be sitting down with the secretary and the assistant, our significant others, the ones that roll their eyes whenever we get together because we just sit there and talk trucks, and they talk about shiwis or something like that. I don't know. Yeah,
I wonder if we can prevent that this episode.
Prevent them
see
talking
if
about
we
shiwis?
can figure out a way to not talk about urine.
We'll see. That'll be a bet we'll have going on with the listeners.
Okay.
So if we do it, then everybody owes us $1.
Yeah. Now somebody's going to write in and ask a shiwi question, so it's inevitable.
Right. We just won't air that one.
Right.
So, we got that coming up. There's a Google form down there. So if you guys want to know anything about me, myself, or I, go ahead and ask that question. I guess if you want to know something about Jimmy as well, or the secretary or the assistant, go ahead and ask those questions and we will answer every single question. We may not air every single question.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
I'm a little afraid of questions that come in from Mr. McDouche.
Yeah.
So
I haven't heard from the other Floridian. Yeah.
I heard from him recently.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him in a while.
I don't remember what it was. He had posted something on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's alive.
Okay.
That's good. That's all I know.
Yeah. I'm happy to hear that.
Yep. Congratulations, Frank.
Yes.
You're still
thanks.
alive.
Cool. Well, shall we get into some reviews real quick?
Yeah. Let's do a couple reviews here. What are we doing with reviews, Jimmy? Your recap for everybody?
Oh, thanks, little birdie. So for our reviews,
winch.
We're giving away a winch. Was that what you said? A winch, right?
Winch. WENCH. Yes, sir.
Once we get our 500th review in, we are shutting that down, and we are going to be giving away a winch. We have a Smittybilt 9500, I believe, winch that we are going to be giving away to one lucky winner for the first 500 reviews we get on our podcast. And you can leave a review over on iTunes. Actually, it's called Apple Podcast, I believe now.
Oh, that's just true. They changed that a while ago.
And which neither of us have Apple, so we don't know what they changed. But apparently Apple's still the number one podcast player and app out there. So that's the one we care about the most, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also rolling up here pretty quick, and soon I'll probably get an answer of how many podcast or reviews we have out there. But once we get to 450, we'll be giving away a swag pack to a lucky winner. And then once we get to 500, we'll be doing the giveaway for the winch and a runner-up. And the runner-up will either win the winch or a swag pack, depending on if the first person gets back to us.
Yeah.
Did I delay long enough?
Yeah, for the most part.
Cool.
We have 3 more reviews than we did last time.
Perfect.
So at 426 now.
Ooh.
So we've gotten over that halfway point between 400 and 450.
Congratulations.
We are, just FYI, we're trending in Australia.
Oh,
So shout out to all the Aussies out there,
yeah.
except for the one that abandons their country and comes to live in Sacramento.
Yep.
Oh, burn.
Aaron?
No, he's in Alabama.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, man, I'm funny. Anyways, no, the other one is over in Las Vegas right now, actually.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I just got a text from him saying he was at SEMA. I was asking where I was.
Nice.
Yep. Let's see. So we left off here we talked about a big Wayner in Canada.
Yeah, we did.
And we also talked about Yoda Man Turner.
The Nissan guy, right? Yeah.
That is right. No, Big Wayner, the Nissan guy, I think was the English guy.
Oh, okay.
So next one here. Oh my God. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. It's IDHFHXJF.
Oh, come on. You got this.
Edfuxjiv.
That's perfect. Sounds good.
It.
Now do it again.
Edfuxjiv.
Did he write that same kind of spelling for the review?
Thank God, no.
Okay.
It says, great podcast, 5 stars. If you like going wheeling and haven't listened to this podcast yet, you need to. They make me want to get out to the West Coast even more to wheel. So apparently they come out every once in a while.
Yeah.
Whoever Edfuxjiv is.
Right. I'm waiting for when we get to a review that's in another language. Have you just been skipping over those?
No, we haven't had any yet.
Oh. That'll be a funny time.
That would be fun. Let's get some, I don't know, German ones or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess I could have read the Canadian one in their language.
You should have. Yeah. Or the British one.
Or the British ones. Oh, man. Next one here is from Nate Dog 4x4, but it's Nated Dog. Nated Dog 4x4.
Are you sure it's not Nate D-O double G or double D-O-G?
That's what it is. It could be Nate the Dog.
The dog.
Nate the Dog.
It's double D.
Double D. Double D Og. Double D OG 4x4.
Yeah, there you go.
We figured it out. You can't hide anything from us, Nate double D OG 4x4. Anyways, he says he's just here for the winch.
Thanks, buddy.
Best pod ever, though. You can use that as a quote. Thanks, guys. You make the commute more enjoyable. Really enjoy all the Toyota talk. Thanks.
Thanks, Nate double D.
OG 4x4. Next one here is from Sad Uswer.
Hey, Sad Uswer.
USWR. Uswer. Right? Or would you say
USSR?
No, USWR. Sad USSR. Sad Uswer. It says, great podcast. Grabbed the wife's phone to leave a review. She needs a winch.
And a new name.
And a new name. Thank you. Yes.
I haven't even been drinking.
I like doing this. So they get to pick on everybody. They can't rebuttal anything.
Why is she sad?
I don't, because she's a sad Uswer. She's not a happy Uswer.
Nope. She should be. You're doing your job wrong, mister.
Good job. And last one I think we're going to read today because it's only 4 stars.
That's okay.
It's fine. We'll take it.
Yeah.
It's from Kai Superfly.
He's not Superfly.
He's definitely Kai Nominally Fly.
Yeah.
It says overall
4-star fly.
4-star guys, 4-star fly. You're feisty today.
I know. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good. We like it. This is the Jimmy that Dylan and Zach really like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never hung out with them since.
I know, right? They keep asking where you are and when's Jimmy going to come out. And I was like, that's a good question. I don't know.
They live too far.
It is kind of far.
And they do their get together on my date night.
Well, bring her with you.
Yeah, that'd go.
She'd
over
enjoy
well.
it. Oh, man. Anyways, from Kai Nominally Fly, it says overall good podcast. I like the informational episodes. So he's not listening to this episode. So it's okay. Oh no, this is an informational one. Never mind.
I was going to give him 5 stars, but I think I'll just give him 4.
I'm giving him 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it deserves 4.
He's going to go in there and edit it and give us 1.
Down to 1 star. I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you everybody for writing in. We love being able to make fun of you without you being able to argue with it.
Oh yeah.
So
you should see what I say to Tyler behind his back.
I've been told some of the comments.
Oh, good.
And I agree with every single one of them.
Perfect.
So, oh man. So those are the reviews for today. We'll get to the monthly giveaway stuff on Thursday. Birthdays, FNGs, all that fun things that we get to talk about that and some interaction with you guys with, other than these fun reviews, except for nominally Fly Kai Guy.
4 star.
Yeah, 4 stars. So anyways, today is Monday's episode.
Yes, it is.
Which means we have an interesting talk today.
Yeah, this one was brought on by me trying to figure out how to put bigger tires onto Charlotte.
Yeah. But it also kind of got me thinking too, because I got to drive around and I got to wheel with both Kevin Poole and Mike Smith at last year's Rubathon.
Okay.
And then I got to wheel with Mike again at this year's Rubathon because Debbie Poole had a crush going on.
Yep.
So she couldn't make it.
Who is she crushing on?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Some guy named Sauvignon Blanc, some French guy.
Yeah.
So anyways, I got to kind of wheel around with them, right? And they have 43-inch TSLs.
Yeah.
On
Monsters.
first gen Forerunners.
Yes.
On leaf springs.
Correct.
So they don't really flex a whole lot. There's not a lot of room there to flex.
No.
There's not a whole lot of room there to articulate your axles when you're shoving 43-inch tires into first gen Forerunner wheel wells. So it was kind of interesting to watch them go around the trail because it didn't really seem like they had any issues on the trail, because I think that they had just really big rolling radiuses.
Oh,
so they're able to just kind of roll up and over stuff. But it got me thinking, can you get away with having very little flex if you have a big rolling radius, or is it better to have more flex but maybe a smaller rolling radius? So anyways, that's what today's topic is about. I have no clue how it's going to turn out.
It's going to be a good discussion.
It'll be an interesting discussion for sure. So hopefully we'll get some discussions going. And what I love from these, and we'll get into it later, so don't worry about it. I'm going to stop right there. Okay?
Okay.
Grab a drink.
Got one.
You got one? I got kind of what's left of one.
Agua.
That's good. I'm surprised you're not still drinking half and half. But anyways, without further ado, friends, go ahead and grab your favorite drinks, grab your favorite leftover Halloween candy, have some of it, take a seat, relax, and we'll be right on back with today's campfire discussion. Welcome back, ladies and gentle ladies. Did that come out well? Should we redo that?
Sounded like you or.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody.
Thanks for noticing.
Anyways, today we have an interesting talk here. I explained a little bit about it before the break, which to you guys was like 30 seconds ago. So we don't need to go back over it too much. But really the discussion is articulation versus rolling radius.
Right.
Is there a better one to have?
Yes.
There is.
I think so.
You think so? Interesting. I think so as well, but
is there a balance?
Is there
an advantage to one or the other?
Or do you want to prioritize? Yeah, exactly. Is there an advantage to prioritizing one or the other? I don't know. Well, I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are, because I think you and I might lean differently on this topic.
Okay. I lean a little to the right.
I lean the same way that you answer when your tailor asks you if you dress to the right or the left.
Okay. Whatever that means.
Yes.
The eagle flies over the nest at midnight.
Anyway, so what is articulation?
Articulation is the amount of movement that your tire has vertically. I don't know how.
Or is that wheel travel?
Wheel travel? Maybe.
Mhm.
I don't know. And so would articulation be the amount of movement within your suspension?
I think that's a good way of putting it. I would consider articulation to be a live axle movement through up travel on one side and down travel on another side.
So do independent vehicles not have articulation?
I wouldn't say they have articulation.
They just have wheel travel?
Yeah.
Okay. This could be a whole nother debate.
I know, right? I was just thinking about that. That could be a whole nother thing. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever even looked up to see exactly what the accepted industry definition
of articulation
is.
Yeah, I don't know. But I would say articulation would be the amount of movement in an axle.
Yeah. Well, that just means, are you talking about like up and down move? Like what if your whole entire axle moves up and down rather than one side going down, the other side going up? Like say if you
they be roughly the same?
The same amount of movement?
Yeah, if one side goes up, one side goes down, should be the same as both going down or both going up. Shouldn't they be? I mean, if it goes,
that's
you saying if it twists, it can go up farther than if both go up?
Maybe.
Or if it twists, one can go farther down than both going straight down?
That's kind of, yeah. Because I think through articulation, you get a little bit more forced articulation rather than just dropping the axle out.
Yeah. And probably true on, well, I was going to say probably true on the Moscow Mule, but the Moscow Mule's limited on down travel.
That's true unless you're limit strapped.
So
which a lot of vehicles are.
Theirs is the same on down, whether they're full droop on both or
articulated.
Or articulated.
Yeah. So I guess if you're limit strapped, then your full down travel of the axle would be the same amount of down travel you'd get through articulation.
Correct. But you keep using articulation as the twisting of an axle, not a full droop scenario. Yeah. So articulation has to be flexed from one side to the other?
That would be my guess. It's the amount that I don't even know if it'd be considered defined by an amount. Let's just look this up real quick.
What is articulation? The formation of clear and distinct sound in speech.
Perfect. That's what we're talking about today.
Is that what you got to?
Yeah. And then I had to change articulation in an axle.
Yeah. That was like, oh, well, that ain't right.
Interesting. So it looks like just looking through a couple different sources here, articulation is talking more about your suspension rather than your axles.
Okay.
So it's how much your suspension allows vertical wheel travel. So I guess, and technically IFS would be able to, or IRS, any independent suspension would be able to articulate just like a solid axle would.
Okay.
Because it's more to do with the suspension rather than the axle.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or the tire.
Okay. Yeah. Or the tire.
Though they kind of somewhat go hand in hand, but this is just movement of suspension.
Yeah. Vertical movement of suspension.
Okay.
So is vertical movement of suspension, up travel, down travel, whatever it is it better to try and get a lot of vertical movement out of your suspension? Or is it better to get just bigger rolling radiuses to make it up and over?
What would be the advantage of both?
Yeah.
What would be the advantage of articulation?
I think the advantage of articulation, and we have to define, I guess, what type of off-roading we're doing.
Sure.
Is that with up travel, you can absorb more shocks in the terrain. With down travel, you can keep your tires down on the terrain further, the more the terrain drops out from underneath you, right?
Yeah.
So down travel would be more to do with the longer you can maintain contact with the ground to maintain traction, the further the ground gets away from the chassis. And up travel would be more of how much of a shock you can absorb when
at speed,
or I guess at technically low speed too, if you need to, but
true.
Off a drop or something.
I think we can just easily clarify this by we're going to be doing this discussion in a rock crawler view.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it like if you're out on Fordyce or out on the Rubicon or putting around in possibly Moab on some of the more difficult terrains, not a go fast area.
Yeah. So in my opinion, the advantage that we look for as rock crawlers in suspension articulation is that down travel.
Correct.
There's not many scenarios where you need a lot of up travel in rock crawling.
I would agree with that.
There's a few scenarios where it might be nice to have, but for the most part, we just want down travel. We want our wheels to drop out as far underneath us as we can possibly have them go, so that we can maintain as much traction on the surface, no matter what kind of terrain we are crawling over. And since we're not really going fast at all, there's not a lot of big shocks to the suspension. I don't know if that'd be considered shock loading a suspension, but there's not a big jolts to the suspension that we would need to really absorb. So I would argue that articulation in rock crawling would just come down to your down travel.
Unless you're really, in my opinion, I agree, unless you're going fast.
Yeah.
Right. And unless you're trying to do some, ultra four sort of style stuff, then I mean, if you're just out putting around to go wheel a trail, then, I would say that you're looking at possibly a 70-30, 80-20 split with the majority of it being down.
Yeah. And what is that 70-30, 80-20 reference to?
Just the percentages of travel in the suspension, 80% down, 20% up, or 30% up, 70% down.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people try to aim for a 50-50, but I don't know if you absolutely need that in a rock crawling situation.
Right now, I will say Kermit is set up for about 90% down, 10% up.
Yeah. Probably Bobcat's 80-20.
Yeah. So with having articulation and say, whatever shocks you're running, say you can get the full amount of shock movement. Typically, what are limits to articulation?
I would say axle possibly hitting the frame.
Okay.
On some up travel.
Okay.
Wheels getting into the wheel wells. If it droops out too far, you could have a binding motion in the suspension or the drive shaft. I'm trying to think of like, if you're 3-linked, maybe it swings a little far driver passenger, and it could cause some binding that direction.
What about your shock?
Yeah, the limitations of shocks, lengths. Yeah.
So like
limiting straps or bump stops.
Yeah, right. Which is one of the benefits of ORIs is they act as both a limiting strap and a bump stop in one package, in one shock thing there. Whereas typical shocks, you don't want to extend. Say you have a 14-inch travel shock. And typically in the off-road world, if you talk about shocks, you're going to hear referenced as, 14-inch or 12-inch shocks or 16 inches or 18 inches. Those typically refer to the travel that the shock can do in total.
Correct. Yeah.
And then it's a matter when you set up your suspension, you want to set it up
from full compression to full extension.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. And so typically when you set up your suspension, you have an idea in mind as to what percentages you want down travel, what percentage you want up travel, and you set up your shocks and suspension accordingly. And so if you're trying to take a 14-inch shock and get all 14 inches of travel out of it, that's typically really bad on the shock. So you want to try and get, close to it without damaging the shock, fully extending a shock and, getting it to the point where it's either the limit strap or you hit your limit straps at the same point you're fully extending the shock. It can do some interesting things to the internals of the shock.
Yeah, it would damage the inside of the shock after multiple times of doing this.
And same if you compress it all the way and your shock is your bump stop, then you're mainly just really risking damaging the body of the shock and the shaft of the shock.
Or your cross member, right?
Or your cross member just shears your cross member off in half. Why do you bring that up, Jimmy? Huh?
Because somebody decided to try to race on the Baja 1000 course in a 4Runner.
On leaf sprungs with no bump stops.
Yeah, you had bump stops.
I did. They were my shocks.
Exactly. And you broke your cross member.
I did. Oh, that's funny. I wasn't going to bring that up.
No, I was.
I know. That's why you're here.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. So anyways, that's kind of like articulation. In rock crawling, we just look for a lot of down travel.
Yeah.
Now, having a lot of down travel allows our wheels and our tires to flex away from our chassis so that we can still maintain contact with the ground, but still maintain a semi-level chassis as we're going, say, up and over rocks or
Volkswagen bugs.
Over smart cars, whatever it is.
We like the Priuses here.
Yeah.
We go around those.
Yeah, we'll go around those. We honk and wave at them and ask them if they need water. So, so that's kind of the benefit of down travel for us. But if you have a really big rolling radius, does that substitute for down travel?
Well, having a really big rolling radius would mean that you probably are filling some of the holes that smaller rolling radius would fall deeper into.
Mm-hmm.
So you might not need as much down travel.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you attack a wall, let's just say, you're going to come in contact with that wall at a sooner point and a higher point than a smaller tire.
Mm-hmm.
So you might not need as much up travel or down travel to get up a wall.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really the only advantage that I kind of see is the fact that, it's easier for the obstacle becomes smaller because you have bigger tires.
Yeah. As you create a bigger rolling radius, you end up getting more leverage on your side as long as you're geared appropriately and your drivetrain can handle it.
On your side?
You get more leverage on your side, as in like it's
you have a bigger benefit for leverage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, leverage helps you out a lot more, and it makes big rocks seem
smaller,
like small rocks, right? Yeah. Because you're using leverage to your advantage. So if let's say you had smaller tires, but more articulation, more wheel travel, would that still be as easy of an obstacle to get up?
I don't think so. I think bigger tires would make it easier to get up as long as you're geared appropriately.
Yeah, as long as you're geared. Yeah, that's the kicker, right? You got to be geared appropriately.
Let's just assume for this argument that we are geared appropriately. Yeah.
Which you and I are, so it's okay.
As much as we can be.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could go to 571s.
We could. Yeah. Yeah, I would argue kind of the same thing. I would think that rolling radius would be a bigger benefit than just, as much down travel as you can get. Because I would imagine that, just like you said, if the whole point of articulation and rock crawling is to get the down travel, but if you have big tires, you can kind of, if you're talking about a 40-inch tire versus a 30.
Let's talk about 44s versus 37s.
Okay. So the difference between those two tires is 7 inches diameter, which means a radius. So if you cut that in half, because that's how much the bot underneath your tire is going to be down. We're looking at 3.5 more inches that the bigger tire is going to reach down further than the small tire.
Okay.
So does that 3.5 inch difference between those two tires, does that count for articulation?
No. You're not flat. Your suspension's not working.
Well, no, it doesn't count as articulation, but does it count? Is it a replacement for articulation? Like, does that 3.5 inches of the bigger tire reaching down further from your hub and your chassis?
That's an interesting question. So just for a simple argument's sake, let's say somebody on 37-inch tires can articulate a max of 40 inches.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So does a 44-inch tire, if it needs to travel up 40 inches,
Mm-hmm.
does it needs to go higher if it wants to climb over a 40-inch boulder? Like how, so it's got to go up more.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's got to droop the 30 or 40 inches, it doesn't have to go down as far.
The entire tire does, but I would argue that you're trying, the point of it is to get the center of your wheel up, right?
Okay.
So your hub.
Yeah.
Because your hub is where all the structure of the vehicle and suspension and everything sits on that hub. And so the hub is really what you're trying to get up and over your obstacles.
Sure.
Because if your hub can get up and over, you assume the vehicle could, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you have a 44-inch tire and a 37-inch tire, the hub is going to sit 3.5 inches taller on that obstacle than the 37-inch tire hub.
Right.
And so that hub only has, say if it's a 40-inch obstacle, that hub only has...
Well, if it's 44, it's at 22.
Yes, it's at 22. So the 37-inch hub would be at...
That's a harder one. 15 minus 7.5, 3.5, so 18.5.
18.5 inches up off the ground. So for a 37, it'd be it's got to 17
climb,
inches off the ground.
But it's got to climb 40 inches.
It's got to climb. No, it doesn't. It has to climb because the hub is already at 18 inches.
Yeah, but the tire's on the ground.
Yeah, but the hub is, I would argue the hub is what you're trying to get to climb.
Okay, but so when the tire gets up to the top of 40 inches, it's 18.5 inches higher than the rock.
Yeah, but it starts off.
Yeah, but it travels 40. The bottom of the tire travels up 40 inches.
Mm-hmm.
The hub travels up 40 inches. The top of the tire travels up 40 inches.
Yeah, but if you're talking between the two different tires, it's different amounts.
No, they all travel 40 inches.
It's
different amounts hitting the wall. It hits the wall higher, right? Let's just say it's climbing a vertical wall. The 22 inches for the 44 is going to hit 22 inches straight onto the wall, but it's still got to climb 40 inches up.
For climbing, I mean, we're not talking about down travel for climbing, though. For climbing, I think it would come into...
Are we talking about down travel or are we talking about climbing a 40 inch?
I thought we were trying to talk about down travel.
Okay, so let's drop down 40 inches. Okay. You still got to drop down 40 inches. The whole suspension's got to travel. It's got to flex a 40-inch flex.
Yeah, but your suspension typically is done based on where the hub is, though. And so if the hub starts from that 40 inches, starts at 22 versus 18, is that 4-inch difference making up any difference
for travel?
For travel? That's the question, I think. Like, yeah, I agree. I think they would travel the same amount, but the bigger tire would take up some of that travel.
I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer that. I think
I don't either.
It comes down to being if it's a straight 90 and a straight drop and, they both have the same amount of suspension that would be required in a way. Because it's already higher. It's whatever 3.5 inches taller. And so it's got to drop that same 40 inches to come down to the ground. But if we're talking about on the trail, it'll probably hit a rock sooner than the 37 would. So you're going to need slightly more flex with the 37 than the 44.
So that's kind of what my question is then. Like, I agree. I think it would hit a rock sooner in real life applications. So is having could you essentially, instead of running a 37 and 16-inch shocks, could you run a 44 and 12-inch shocks and have about the same amount of suspension action? I don't know what the right word would be. Real life scenario suspension application. Like, would they end up making that obstacle look about the same into each vehicle or not?
I don't see this. It's hard because it's sort of theoretical, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would in driving on the Rubicon. I think you don't necessarily need as much articulation with a larger tire because that larger tire is going to fill some of the hole with the diameter of the tire rolling down the trail. Where if you have 37s, you need a little bit more articulation because you're going to drop deeper into the holes. And you probably need that little bit more flex to get through that obstacle. Another thing I'm picturing in my mind is on Metal Masher, there's a few ledges that have undercuts on them. Yeah. Where if you're 30 set, there's an obstacle I haven't been able to make on that trail because my tires go under the ledge. And if you have 40s, you hit the ledge in the right spot and you can pop up and over where the 37s went underneath and they couldn't get the grip that they needed to pull myself up and over. Yeah. So that's not an articulation example, but that was an advantage to a bigger tire because that bigger tire is filling the void more than a smaller tire was. Yeah. And with the bigger tire, you get more leverage as well. I mean, that's kind of the point of a bigger rolling radius is you get more leverage. So yeah, I would think that for climbing stuff, the suspension, the articulation of a suspension is almost irrelevant. I would say it would mostly all depend on maybe if you're doing a straight on climb.
I mean, yeah, if you're getting to the point where your squat or anti-squat or anti-dive, dive and anti-dive values are coming into play because you're having to get up this hill and it's, your front end of your suspension is unloading on you. That would be something else to consider, but I don't think that is an articulation quality.
Well, I'm just picturing things now out in Sand Hollow where people are climbing up these ledges and they're having to use the articulation to keep a tire grip on the ground.
Oh yeah. If you're not hitting a wall straight on.
Correct. Yes. That's what I mean.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. Yeah. If you're doing a straight on climb. Yeah, definitely. Bigger tires will definitely help you and maybe not as much articulation in that case, but does a bigger tire help you in the scenario for Sand Hollow where people are getting at crazy angles and could use the articulation to keep a tire on the ground and would the larger tire solve that problem?
Yeah. Or would the larger tire hit the ledge first and cause you to start climbing before you really want to? And so you can't use articulation to keep yourself a little bit more level. Yeah. I don't know. See, this is why I was like, this has just been, I don't know, hasn't really been eating at me, but I'm always, every once in a while, I'm like, it's what's better, bigger tires or articulation, or are they better? Is there scenarios where one is better than the other?
Or is there a happy medium? Maybe 42s, with a bunch of flex.
Yeah. Right.
Or it seems like everybody likes 40s these days. That's sort of the normal. So maybe a 40 with a good amount of flex instead of 44s with limited flex. If you set up, let's just say a JK, which because that seems to be pretty common out on the trail on 44s, and the same exact thing on 40s, which one's going to have an easier time down the trail?
I mean, I would argue the 44s would have an easier time down the trail.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
So I would agree that if the same exact rig on 44s is probably easier than on 40s. So what if you did a rig that had 14 inches of travel on 40s and a rig that had 10 inches of travel on 44s?
That's the question that I'm interested in. What would do better? What would be easier on the vehicle to get down the trail?
I think the 40s on 14 inches of travel would be better
than the 44s on 10 inches of travel. Interesting.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I would lean more.
But if you say 44s on 12 inches of travel, I have no idea. I think 10 inches of travel would just be a little bit too little.
I think so. For what we have here in the Sierras, the high Sierras, I think that 10 inches travel is too little. But it would be interesting comparing those two vehicles to each other and seeing. But like, what if we took a rig on 40-inch tires on 16 inches of travel versus 44s on 12s? So we keep that gap the same. We just move it down the scale a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you look, the thing that I'm picturing right now in my head is Hussman's buggy.
Okay.
He has 16-inch ORIs, and with his double triangulated front and rear suspension on the buggy, he can take his 42s? 40,
he has 40s at the moment.
He can take his 40s and get almost the full 16 inches of travel out of them.
Yeah.
So if you take a bigger, quote unquote, a bigger rolling radius and give it a lot of travel at the same time,
it'll do great.
It'll do awesome.
Yeah. I was going to do the complete opposite. What about 40s with no travel?
No travel
whatsoever versus 31s with, 20 inches of
20
travel.
inches of travel. That would be interesting. I don't know. I don't.
Besides the ground clearance on the diff, I think it'd be easier to wheel the 31s on 20 inches of travel.
I think you would definitely, the chassis would stay level more and keep you from rolling over.
Yeah,
for sure. On that versus, 44s and no travel. So interesting. So where is that happy medium where, but like what if we did obviously 31s and no travel versus 44s and 20 inches of travel, which
I think I'll do the 40s with travel, Bob.
Right. So is there a happy medium though, or is the goal to get as much travel and as big of a tire as you can put under a vehicle?
Yes.
Interesting.
I think
I wouldn't have come to that conclusion originally when thinking about this, but since we've been talking about it, I'm like, yeah.
As big as tires as you can get with as much travel as you can get.
Yeah.
That's going to be the easiest way down the trail.
Yeah.
Now it's probably overkill for a lot of things that we do. True. Unless you go out to Johnson Valley or you go over to Sand Hollow or something. But even after talking to Hussman, there's a specific ratio for Sand Hollow. You don't want to be, I think he was saying like full widths are too wide for some of the trails out there and Toyota axles are too narrow.
Huh.
There's a happy medium on some of those things for, what do you want to call that? Track width.
Yep.
Where I do think that you need bigger tires because that helps grab. I think he wants to go 42 treps. Is going to be his next purchase after his engine and transmission and T-case change. And I think as much flex as you can get.
Yeah.
But for what's interesting is that he feels that there's a width and a length restriction for Sand Hollow.
Interesting.
So I think that could be a whole nother discussion.
When you start getting into wheelbase, what's the best wheelbase and track width for a vehicle?
Yeah. And sort of sounds like it depends on where you live in that answer.
Yeah.
Because I would argue that Bobcat is pretty damn well set up for any of these Northern California trails that we have. And it's 127-inch wheelbase. That's longer than a whole bunch of things out on the trail.
Yep.
And it does great. And you wouldn't think it if I wheel a truck that's 127 inches long. Everybody goes, that's way too long.
Yeah, you don't need anything that big.
8, 112, maybe 116.
Yeah,
but no,
Yeah, Bobcat does awesome. He's so stable, and I think that the wheelbase helps for the narrower Toyota track width in keeping you so stable.
I believe so.
I don't think I've ever measured Kermit's wheelbase before, but I looked up a second gen 4Runner's wheelbase is like 108 inches.
Is that it?
Which is shorter than I thought it would be.
Yeah, me too.
And so I thought I was going to be around the 113, 114 range.
Me too. I think that's what Dave's is. Dave with first gen. I thought he was like 112.
I know that first gens were like 106 to 108.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he did move his axle forward a little bit.
Stretched it out a little bit.
But I'm pretty sure yours is too.
Mine stretched out at least 1.5 inches with the rears up front. So yeah, I mean, I might be around 110, 109 to 110, somewhere in that range. I don't think I've ever measured it, but after looking at it, I'm like, and realizing that, and I was like, I wish I was longer. I wish I had a longer wheelbase. And that might also be why I do feel tippy when I get up on ledges in the front end unloading, or when I get on off camber spots, because I don't have the length like Bobcat does to keep me super stable.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, wheelbase and track width is a whole nother
that's
discussion.
Another topic for another day.
Yeah, man. I'm still thinking like, if I could.
So
okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, when we started this discussion, what was your first thought? Because you said that you were thinking that it was going to be different than my initial thought.
I thought that you were going to go for articulation, and I was going to go towards bigger tires, rolling radius.
Yes.
Because I'm a big fan of leverage. I love using leverage to my advantage, right? And so that's the way I was heading. And I'm like, I think down travel and wheel travel suspension articulation combined with it, you definitely need. And then I started thinking, well, then why don't more people just do that? And I think that there's a third part to this equation, and that's a budget. Because as you start adding more down travel, you start getting more and more expensive suspensions.
Yeah. Well, you need more suspensions that need more flex, or more. You need suspensions that get more flex, and that isn't a leaf spring.
Yeah. Leaf springs can flex pretty decently if you set them up for it and set them up right. Yes. I outflexed a lot of Jeeps out at Metal Cloak event one time when we got up on the RTI trailer with the first gen 4Runner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, leaf springs can flex a bit, but like, yeah, if the goal is, if the conclusion we came to, which is, mix your articulation with as big of a tire as you can fit there. I think the big problem that I've had is that as I've added a bigger tires, I limit my up travel, which then limits my overall wheel travel, but I'm not really limiting my down travel at all. And my down travel hasn't really changed.
Not necessarily, but if you limit your up travel, you're limiting I would almost argue that you're limiting the total amount of travel available.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. And so, and that would come down to kind of shocks in a way. But if you have 3 inches of available up travel and you only use 2 inches, then you're limiting the total amount of travel that you have available.
Totally. 100%. But I don't feel like that has limited me at all. I feel like Kermit has gotten better and better the bigger tires I've put on him.
I would probably say that's true. And I don't think that you're still gaining the same amount of down travel in a way.
My down travel isn't really changing, I don't think.
Right. But the bigger tires you put on, the more up travel you're limiting, the less flex overall that you're able to achieve.
True. Yeah. So if I'm not changing my down travel at all, but I'm running a 40-inch tire compared to a 37-inch tire, am I able to reach 3 inches further down now? If I'm not gaining anymore, if my down travel is all the same, am I able now to reach 3 inch, or I guess 1.5 inches more, 1.5 inches down further because I'm running a bigger tire?
I don't know how to answer that. I think my gut feeling says no, because you're you're not going any farther. I don't know. So from 40s, what do you mean an inch and a half? From
37s to 40s.
From 37s to 40s, you moved your axle up an inch and a half. And so because of that,
well, I moved everything, not just the axle, the chassis and everything. Yeah.
Because you have moved the axle up an inch and a half, everything above that moved up an inch and a half. Right.
Yeah.
So are you now, if you go over a ledge, are you now able to reach an inch and a half farther down?
That's a good question.
What you're asking?
Kind of. I'm just asking if you have my Forerunner, 2 copies of my Forerunner, and hang them in free space.
Okay. I think I have an answer.
And then go ahead. Droop out the front driver tire.
Are you able to reach an inch and a half farther down?
Is the 40-inch tire going to be able to reach an inch and a half further than 37-inch tire?
I thought I had an answer. And then I second guessed myself. I was going to say because the opposite tire is
now limited as to how far up it can travel.
No, I was going to say that it's also an inch and a half taller. You know, are you really dropping an inch and a half more?
That's a good question. On leaf springs, I'm not sure because leaf springs do weird things to suspension articulation and free space. But if it was like linked and say,
I would argue that your travel is the same.
Travel would, so the bottom of the tire travel or the hub, I would argue the hub travel would be the same for sure.
Yeah. But the bottom of the tire, because the suspension turns is at, let's just say your suspension's at 45 degrees. Okay. Just to put a picture in everybody's head.
Okay.
The tire on 40s is at 45 degrees and the tires on 37s at 45 degrees. So did you travel more?
I don't think I did.
I don't think you did either.
But I think because I have a bigger tire, I end up having a bigger reach as well. I think the tire ends up hanging down lower.
No, I don't know. I think you're at the same.
Interesting.
You're the same.
Okay.
In a way, you're just have a bigger rolling radius and can start an obstacle a little earlier.
Okay.
But I don't think that your suspension travel or your, what were we talking about it at the beginning?
Your tire travel?
Yeah.
The not really tire travel because it's the same amount of travel. If you don't change your suspension, then the suspension is going to have the same amount of travel no matter what. It's a matter of if you can now reach something further down or not because you're running a bigger tire.
I'm going with no.
Okay. I'm going to go with yes. I'm curious what people say.
Yeah. I think we're beating a dead horse.
I think we are too. So anyways, yeah, I don't know. This is why it's entertaining for me to run things through my head and be like, I don't know, would that work or not? What would be the priority? What should I prioritize on the rig? You know, when I'm redoing the axles and suspension, you know, I'm going to have a completely different fulcrum point in my suspensions. And, you know, I'm going to be running 14-inch shocks in the front, 12s in the rear. And I'm kind of like, am I going to get more travel? I mean, I should get more travel than leaf springs, but, you know, then the next question is, do I go up to 42s? Is that really something I should try and do? Or
so if you go up to 42s, are you going to have to limit your suspension?
That's a great question.
And then is there an advantage to going to bigger tires and limiting your suspension?
I think I would have to definitely limit the up travel in the suspension. I don't think I would need to limit the down travel.
So the question really would become if you get the same amount of travel.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, at least right now with Bobcat sits tall. But one of the reasons I haven't lowered it is because it uses all of that up travel too.
Yep.
It stuffs itself way up there.
It does.
If I limit the amount of up travel it gets, then I'm not getting as much travel overall.
Yeah, you're not for sure.
So that's one of the reasons that I leave Bobcat fairly tall is because it gets a lot of flex. Like we've both been aired down,
Mhm.
and I drove up on top of your 40s and barely maybe had a half an inch of my
your tire
rear
hanging
tire off
Yeah.
the ground.
Mhm.
Right. So I can go up I can climb 39s or something like
Yeah.
that. Right. And all of my tires will be touching the ground. Where
Mhm.
if I limited any of the travel in that vehicle,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
True. And that comes into play as to, as you start flexing the vehicle out, and that's a different term. If you start flexing the vehicle out, how far can you flex the suspension out and still maintain all four tires on the ground or in contact with your surfaces, whatever you're on? Yeah. So that's an interesting question. Is it, is it better to go with articulation and prioritize that, or tire size, or do you find a happy medium between it all, or do you just go as big as you can as long as money's no option? I don't know.
No, I don't necessarily know. I think I like the way Bobcat works,
Mhm.
and I like the amount of flex it gets.
Mhm.
And so going to a larger tire would probably limit me or prohibit me from getting as much flex as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I do some severe sawzall work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think staying on 37s on that truck is a good happy medium for the amount of flex that it gets.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good spot too. I don't know. I feel like I've needed to, I don't know if I feel like I've needed to, but I feel like I wanted to go up to 40-inch tires from 37s, and I've loved every second of it. I feel like everything has gotten a lot easier with 40s on it, rather than 37s, but I didn't change any of my suspension at all.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did have to hack a bunch out of your rear tub to allow it to get up travel.
I did, but I bump stopped the rear as well at a certain point too.
Right.
Yeah. And the front. So the front is, I get an inch, maybe an inch and a half of up travel in the front right now.
Well, you'd still get more up travel. You have an inch and a half between your bump stop and your frame.
I have like half an inch between the bump stop and the bump stop plate.
Never mind.
My U-bolt plate.
Because when it contacts there, the other side can still arc a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is a really interesting topic. Rolling radius size versus suspension travel. I'm still leaning towards suspension travel.
Interesting. So I'm still leaning towards rolling radius as a bigger priority. I think ultimately, if you can, you want to go for both.
Yes.
But what's a bigger priority? I don't, we're split right now.
Well, yeah, we are. And what's funny is we both do each other's lines, right?
For when we drive. I don't always take your lines because you have more stability being a long wheelbase.
But we both go through the same obstacles. We both do, we both, for the most part, we hit every obstacle that the other person hits.
Yeah.
And so both of our rigs go through the trails fine.
Yeah. I just have air conditioning, so I'm nice and chill and cool inside.
I wonder I guess they're slightly different setups. But it would be interesting to measure your travel versus my travel.
That would be really interesting. I wonder if we could, you should bring Bobcat over and I'll bring the 4Runner. We'll pull out the forklift and do some measurements and kind of see if we can figure something out. I don't know.
That, or we need to go to over to Metal Cloak. One
Will Mattson, we're going to come over and borrow the trailer.
Yeah. I want to get Mattson on for a full interview. I got him on for a split second while we were at Sierra Trek, but I think it'd be fun to get him on for a full interview.
Well, now that they're finally doing Toyota stuff,
we
can have him on now.
Okay, finally.
So, oh man. So anyways, the next topic that Jimmy and I will be debating is going to be air conditioning or no air conditioning on the trail. So
I think that's an easy answer.
I agree.
If you have the horsepower, do AC.
Oh, okay.
If your air conditioner is going to steal all of your horsepower, then get rid of it.
Yeah, get rid of it. That's funny. All right, Jimmy.
That's why I took it out of Bobcat, because I'm like, man, I turn this thing on and I lose like half of my horsepower.
Yes. Oh, good old 22 REs. Oh, that's funny. All right, man. So any final words for everybody out there?
Stickies.
And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know which days are the strongest?
No.
It's Saturday and Sunday.
Why is that?
Because all the other days are weekdays.
That is true. There is some truth to what you say, good sir.
Thank you.